there's an incredible value for others, a love for others, that is where people just thrive.
Well, good morning and welcome to Thrive. I hope you have your coffee ready. If you're wondering why coffee now, this should probably be your second cup by now. 11 o'clock Mountain Time is definitely my second cup of coffee, if not sometimes my third, unfortunately, depending on the night's sleep I had. But I am joined by my brothers, David and Jayden. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, guys.
Good to be here.
Got my coffee in hand.
Mine
Jay's
too.
got his.
Mine
first.
I'm caffeined out so far, so I have to go to tea now.
He's got more caffeine
I've
than
already had
coffee.
2.5 cups of coffee, and it's not that late in the day, so I got to slow down. But yeah, I got the brothers joining me, and I always love every time we us brothers get together. I think something we're very, very blessed to have in our family is that we all get along really, really well. And when you know family dynamics, it doesn't always naturally connect like that, and almost everybody. You just, but I remember just one guy being added to the family at a time by another, and I so happened to be the first, and then it was David, and then it was Austin, and then it was Jay.
Last.
Yeah.
Last
and
but
so,
not least.
Every time, I mean this all very seriously, every time somebody was getting added to it, you're kind of like, I hope this works, I hope it clicks, because the dynamic of the men in the family is a big deal.
We were not judging it whether you were best for the girl. We were actually judging it whether you would fit with the boys.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
Me?
Oh yeah, as we go one by one.
Well, I remember
David and I were two originals, so we already knew each other really well. So
Well, the first time I met all you guys, it was like, I think I was dating Eden for like, honestly, well, we met online.
weeks.
Our story's
like 3
pretty
years ago?
awesome, but
You thought it was like 3.
but we, I think this is like the second time I lived in Lethbridge at the time, and I went out to Calgary. It was like the second time I went out, and she's like, so my family gets together every single Sunday, and
barely knew each other, right?
yeah, well, we did, but like it was at that point, she's just like, they want us to come for dinner, and I'm like, and you can't say no if you're even interested in this person. You're like, you can't say no, and it wasn't just like, Leon and Sally. It was like everyone was there. Even Zach and Jess were in town that day,
Really?
so
funny.
it was it was fun. I was okay with it. And I think even Leon told me that he told you boys that I was like a master karate or black belt in something. So don't mess with this guy. So that was great from my father-in-law there.
Such
But
a Leon thing.
I know for sure.
little did he know I know nothing about any of that stuff. But
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was awesome. You guys were great.
Exactly where I remember the moment that I first saw you. It's kind of like I walked into the kitchen through the double kitchen door, and you're standing in front of that little medicine cabinet by the round table by the balcony.
Right.
You're standing up like kind of in the corner as everyone's coming forward to you. And I remember going up shaking your hands, and you're exactly the same by then as you are now. Just friendly.
Just
Hi, I'm
genuine.
Jayden. Nice to meet you.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All that to say is Leon was always super, super intentional with kind of being an intentional man. And he talked to us about that a lot. And whenever we do get together, naturally, because we're all in ministry and we love God's word, and it flows into our almost every second of our lives. Even when we're done work at home, it's still always on my mind, and we're always wrestling through it and thinking about church and Miracle Channel and what's happening here. So what I love about that is that we decided to actually make a couple shows. And so if you haven't seen these shows, they were a blast, and they were one of the greatest memories I have in my life.
Yeah,
and especially now that Leon's passed on and graduated to heaven, there's such incredible tokens of beautiful memories we've made as a family. And so those are called 5 in the Wild. I think the only place they can get them is Corco Plus right now.
That's the only spot.
That's right.
Stay tuned for when they're actually going to be released.
Yeah, they're going to move around and be released like kind of in a bigger way. And so if you've got Corco Plus, you can go watch them there, and they're hilariously fun. Season one is all about us being cowboys, which is Jayden's dream. Jayden's whole dream, we found out, is to be a cowboy.
During filming, this is when Jayden has
An Asian cowboy, It's like,
man. I was like, what? A cowboy? What are you talking about? Anyway, so that's Jayden's dream. That's something you're learning about him. And the second show was all about us being going fishing and hanging out as men and kind of talking about like mighty men of valor, kind of like David's mighty men. And we were fleshing out a bunch of ideas. And when I go back and watch them, I'm like, it's incredible content. Like Leon unpacks a whole bunch of these thoughts, but like the whole idea, though, is that if you have weak men in culture, weak men in your country, weak men in your church, it's your culture is going to pay for it. Your country is going to pay for it, because we need strong, confident men who know what to stand up for, who honor where honor is due, or take a stand when they got to take a stand. And being that man, it's not easy. The balance is difficult. It's quite hard, and the word gives us a lot of direction. Before we kind of go into that discussion, I want to encourage you guys, if you're watching online, like, subscribe, follow. Also, there's a little bell you'll notice right beside the subscribe button, and that'll notify you every day we go live. That way you'll just see it right on your phone. You'll never miss it, and you can join us. We're not going anywhere. We're 5 days a week. We're always going to be going live, and so I want to make sure you join us for that. Also, send it to someone. If this is a topic you're going, yeah, this is a cool topic, I think this person maybe should hear this, you can send it to them. The other thing I want to say is just make sure to let us know where you're watching from. I love watching to see where people are watching from, interact with people. And then the last thing is make sure to call. We've always got phone lines open, 1-800-815-6513, and you can call and talk to somebody. And also, if you've got a prayer request, we want to pray with you, we want to connect with you. We've got real people. That is something I'm making sure we constantly do, is that we have real people ready to pray with people on the phones all the time. It's one of my favorite things, that why we're doing what we're doing. But to manhood, Tamara and I were actually talking about this verse last night. It was Ephesians 5:25. I'm going to read it here. Famous verse, but we were discussing relationships and family and wives, and I don't remember how we got there at all. But Leon, I remember talking about this verse all the time, so I said it last night to Tamara, and we were just touching base on it. And it's, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So when you flesh out that thought, what did Jesus do for the church? He laid his whole life down for it, and that's what we're called to do. And like, I don't know if a lot of men realize that. They only see the verse, let wives submit to your husbands. And that becomes a lot of men's joking anthems. But it's like, no. She's to submit to a leader after God's own heart, who's laying his life down for his family. Leon always shared a thought with me when he said, what did he say to me? What's leadership? And I was like, it's not necessarily being first, but it kind of is. You're the leader. You're at the front of the pack. And so Leon would always say, leading is to do whatever it is first, to show the rest what to do. And so if you're to lead your family, you're to apologize first. If you're to lead them, you're to pray first. If you're to lead them, you're to read the Bible first. You show them the way they should go. And I love that, because it shows that you are to put aside how you feel, when you're good, when you're bad, but you just do what needs to be done. And to me, that's one of the greatest things a man can do.
Yeah, I think that is an awesome point to bring up, because you're right. A lot of times men go to that submit portion. And usually, I think if you're having a tough time with your wife on that, it's because you're probably not doing your role correctly.
Absolutely.
And I'm quoting my wife. Danielle says, I want to submit to you as a man when you're spiritually leading the home. Okay. Because it is this idea of self-sacrifice. I will lay my life down for you and the betterment of you and the betterment of our family. And I think men, there's nonstop attack on men and the role of men in society and in the home. Yeah. But understanding this and getting our lead from how Jesus led the church, that is a responsibility. It's not this authoritarian, I'm going to lead by power and might. It is, no, I am going to lay myself down and serve. And lead, because that's what Jesus did, right? Yeah, that's so good. I think we need to learn so much. I think men absolutely need to stand up and take their place in terms of leading, being the first, like you said. Being the first to get your family to get up and go to church. Being the first to show that I'm going to worship God and I'm going to raise my hands and I'm going to lay my life down for him. Being the first to love. And being the first to put your phone down. And go and play and wrestle with your kids. Like that's what it is by leading, is you're the first, and that all requires sacrifice. But
you know what's a phrase we hear a lot right now, and I kind of want to confront this. I heard someone say this, and so I want to repeat this as best I can, is the phrase toxic masculinity, which those two words can't go together. Real masculinity, real biblical masculinity is love, strength, peace, joy, confidence. So to say toxic masculinity is to say toxic love, toxic peace. They don't work. It's like if I said toxic love. Well, love can't be toxic. If it's real love, it's love. Can't be toxic. Sorry, but that's an enemy's attack on what a real man is. You can't bring those two words together. So stop bringing them together, because if it's actually got the word masculinity on it, it's good. It's good. Real masculinity. Now, when you talk about men who do bad things, That's not, masculinity is not in that at all. You're just happening to say that a man is doing.
Euphemisms.
Yes.
Like if you bring toxic
cool?
love together, you're saying you can't bring it together, but really the proper word for toxic love is manipulation. It is trying to coerce. It's selfishness. All those things put together. It's the opposite of what love actually is.
But they're actually I think it's an attack of the enemy trying to go after language. When you go after language and you try to hurt a great thing, like the word love or love is love or all these things you're hearing, I'm going, those are just subtle things that are trying to poison the words and that we use that are powerful words. Very, very powerful, and they can't be watered down. They absolutely can't. Another verse we were going through is Joshua 1:9. This is something that was very, very strong for me over the years, especially in becoming a dad. And it says this, I love it. It goes, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord God is with you wherever you go. And to me, I love that so much as a man, where I'm going, it's not saying don't experience fear. Don't be fearful. Be courageous. And there's so many times, and like you and I, David, were reflecting yesterday about Zach, our brother-in-law, who's the other brother, is a new dad. And
brand new dad. Man,
when you become a dad, you have a real good reason to be fearful now. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I remember the first night I put my nose under there. Are they breathing? And you're like, and you're so ramped, and you're so like, oh my gosh. And so now you're like everywhere they go, and traffic and cars and things and people, like you now have this whole thing. But it doesn't mean that you can't be cautious or mindful, but it says be courageous in the face of fear. And that's something every man, especially when you become a father, that gets amplified off the charts, and you have to be very careful not to be fearful. And that's something for me. So gosh.
Yeah, it's funny too when you have your kids, it's like, before your number one priority is yourself and your wives, right? And whatever, and everything kind of falls in underneath that. But as soon as you have your first kid, it's like, I remember holding Oscar, our oldest, for the very first time, and that feeling of, I'm no longer the most important person in my life. And now it's my responsibility, even as a dad and as a man, just to be there for this kid at every single turn and every single aspect of life. And that includes, standing up and being courageous and being the example. Like, I was blessed to have the most incredible dad, and he's my hero. And I remember, like, one of my very earliest memories of him, and I'm kind of putting him on blast a little bit here, but he would go in the bathroom, and he'd be on the toilet. And I remember as a kid always going in there, but I remember him with his Bible every single time. And he still has this old Bible, and I even, because it's in the bathroom, I even thumb through whenever I'm in there, but it's full of writing in the columns and whatever. But that's just one of the first things I see of my dad, is he was just that example for me to always, like, the first thing he did in his day is read his Bible. And that's what I want to set for my kids, is just be that example of the man, just like you said, leading by example, of being that spiritual leader in the house. But
I love that. A lot of the stuff I read is digital, and you're kind of causing me to reflect and make sure that I do it with physical. Because there's my kids can't tell the difference of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
They think they don't know what I'm doing, and so like you're just causing me to reflect and think. You know what? Actually, I need to make sure the physical Bible is on my lap, or that they see that. I remember seeing Leon do it, and it had a lot of impact on me. I remember seeing that a lot. So gosh, that's cool.
We haven't done it for a bit.
Yeah.
There's probably a year and a half after Pastor Leon passed away at Springs Church, and you and me and Eden and Zach were preaching. Yeah. We all got in the same bandwagon of actually kind of coaxing and kind of poking fun at the crowd by saying, how many people brought their real Bibles to church? Yeah. And I had people hold up their iPad or phone, like, no, that does not count. Put those down. Totally. But that was fun to do, because there's something wonderful about reading the physical Word of God. We tried it. We've gone around our house too, but so often I go back to my iPad because you can search things. It's efficient. But there is the image that is left. Like, kids, I think in the idea of children too, kids won't necessarily remember what you say, but they'll remember the feeling. And when I think back, and I remember, I have distinct memories of a physical Bible. Like, one of my memories I love from a kid growing up with my mom and dad, and my dad specifically on Christmas, is that we'd have the Christmas tree up and you'd see your presents, and mom would be kind of doing whatever food she would do as our tradition. But before anything would get going, my dad would go grab his big Bible and he'd lay it out on the center table, and we'd spend about 20 minutes literally reading. I believe he would read in Luke about the account of Jesus being born. But that memory is ingrained. I don't remember the specific things he said and all that.
What gift did you get that year?
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
But
Yeah,
I remember
that's
reading
really
through
cool.
the Bible
Yeah.
story together, us sitting with our orange juices or whatever we had, and going through it. But that memory and impression is ingrained upon me. Not the physical words, but the picture is like crystal clear in my head.
Yeah.
I know, and I remember, and I'll say this to anybody at home who's maybe never done what David's describing, or maybe you never pulled out a Bible in front of your family and read it. It does feel awkward at first if you've never done it, and I just want to encourage you, be brave, like Joshua was telling us, be courageous. Because you won't regret it. Yeah, I promise you. I remember the first, like when Jackie would do it at the Christmas, remember she'd read the story and then she'd stop and drill all the grandchildren, ask them questions, especially the ones who weren't listening. Grandma Jackie
is Leon's mom.
And she would grill all the grandchildren and be like, she'd find one that was loud and be like, what did I just say? And then everyone's like, oh my goodness.
Or she would do this. Yeah. She would sit there just so quietly.
Yeah.
And she'd wait. People, like, even got her sons, Leon's brothers, and the 5 would be doing their little yappy talk things. And she'd be like, just wait patiently. And all of a sudden she would look at it, like, she would if I'm talking, all of a sudden I'd look over and she'd be like,
just a death stare.
Just staring at me. It's like
she commanded this presence too, right?
And she'd look at the children and go, and wait until absolute silence.
Totally.
And then she would start reading the word. Like, but it's wonderful to think of, because you might think it's goofy, but no, there is this idea of reverence and this idea of, no, this is a moment that we're gonna come together.
And then she'd ask a kid a question about the story of Jesus' birth or something like that, and then the kid would ask, and there would be praise when they got it right. And that was a memory, a moment. It kind of like have you heard of this saying where they say a core memory?
Yeah.
That core memories. Yeah. That's why I say, what gift did you get that year? You have. That's not core memory. You have no idea. I'm
Super
like,
Nintendo.
Like
core memories.
I remember when I got Nintendo 64. That was core. But you don't have many cores. You know what I mean? The core memories really stand out in those type of moments when they become very precious to you down the road. When the Bible moments, because we just started doing our own Christmas last year, like when we did our one at home. We've never done one at home by ourselves. And so we grabbed the Bible and we read it, and I was like, my kids were like, oh, there's a huge pile of gifts. They didn't want to do it or see it, but we didn't care. It's a priority. We make sure it's a priority. So I want to challenge anybody this year. Get ready to do it. Challenge yourself. Be like, I'm going to do it. Let them know ahead of time so no one's surprised or annoyed at you, but do it. Gosh.
But I think this is part of the role of the man. Of course, it really is, women as well, but there's something that is incredibly valuable as to when a man takes leadership in his home. And it's not just my opinion. You actually look at stats of families and church-going measured stats or statistics of when men go and attend and make church a priority, their family follows and stays together. Like there is a difference when the man decides to take charge and say, no, church is a priority. Church is about, we're going to go together. Oh, we have this going on. No, we're going to build church. Worshiping together. Like I try to make it a priority that, and Danielle's been so great with this too, because we have praise parties at home with Gabriel all the time. He loves music and he loves dancing, and you can hear him singing songs. As he falls asleep, all of a sudden he'll start singing like the bridge of Beautiful Name. He'll be in the crib going da 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 da.
Oh, it just does something to your heart.
But I'm conscious of when I'm holding him or I'm in church, I'm raising my hand to praise God, because I want him to see the fact that, no, I'm surrendering my life to God, because I know that's going to have an impact. Even though I might not remember it, but the impression will be there for him, right?
The stat is something like,
I know, I'm trying to find it right now.
Like if you get the man, if the man goes to church and it's his choice to go to the church, it's like 85 or 90% chance that the whole family is going to follow suit. But if it's the wife or it's the woman in the family, it's like 30% or something like that.
Yeah, here it is. I have it right here. Look at this. Okay, so this might be a little bit, I might stumble on this a bit, but it says, for instance, a study shows that 68% of Christian adults in the U.S. who did not inherit their faith from their birth-identified mother as the most influential, compared to 46% for fathers. Despite this, fathers' church attendance can have a significant impact on whether children continue practicing their faith into adulthood. Studies suggest that fathers who are involved in their children's spiritual lives, particularly through regular church attendance, tend to have a stronger influence on their children's long-term faith and practices, and statistics seem to support that.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Interesting. I just pulled that up really quick on a search right while you were talking, because I remember reading it because it was very substantial and the number was very significant. And I think that's God's design, is that the man has that spiritual leadership role that they're supposed to take. But this is the other thing I've noticed too, and I'm very curious if you guys have noticed this too, because I find I go in ebbs and flows. When I'm dealing with stuff and I'm maybe not taking my full leadership role, Tamara will rise up in that role in our home naturally, and she doesn't necessarily want to, maybe she wouldn't word it that way. I mean, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but what I mean is she'll fill the void. And in my home as a young Christian, my mom was the believer in the family at first and really driving it home. But so my mom was kind of taking that manly leadership role that was supposed to be my father. And then my dad eventually took it down the road. But the void will be filled by the wife. She'll fill it, which is awesome and good, but it's not intended to be that way. So if to the men at home, or maybe someone you know who's not taking the leadership role, is just as you said, I find Tamara wants to submit if I'm leading properly. If I'm not, she'll fill the void. And it needs to be filled, and the man has to step up. I've also found that when tensions are high, stresses are high in the home, as a man, try praying for your family, in front of your family, with your family, and
makes such a
the
difference.
whole tension, all the tensions will drop, and they'll start to realize this man's taking a leadership biblical role in the family right now, and they feel it, and you can't avoid it.
You know, and I think there's a lot of people that will be listening that if maybe you feel like you haven't been taking that role, this isn't to bring up guilt or shame or anything. This is actually because we all fail at times. There's times in my life and in my marriage where I haven't been that leader because for whatever reasons, you might say, maybe it's immaturity, maybe it's busyness of life and you get your priorities wrong and distraction. But there's always an opportunity to, say, you know what, I'm going to course correct as of right now. And that's the beautiful thing about the gospel and God's grace is that we all had a massive course correction when we choose to follow Jesus. So that can be you. And maybe we're talking about our father figures, and maybe you didn't have a father figure in your life. I think of my dad. My dad had a wonderful father figure, my grandpa, but he wasn't a believer in the life of when my dad was growing up. My dad was a first generation believer. So he decided, I'm going to be the one that's going to set the course in terms of how I'm going to lead the family according to the Bible. And that can be you as well in your life. If you don't have that, if you have a broken relationship with your father, maybe you didn't have one, you can be the one that starts the chain reaction for your generations, your genealogy. And
someone has to.
Someone has to make that stand. If you look at all of ours, somebhere, somebody made that change in that stance, right?
Yeah, I remember Zach talking at one of our, I think, men's breakfast where he gave an example of you can learn no matter who your dad is, whether it's if he was awesome or if he was not great. And he said, you'll learn what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, what not
to
do. That's powerful, eh?
Yeah.
It takes a self-reflecting, honest individual to realize that. Yep. Like, I remember it was actually Oprah, ironically, where somewhere along the lines I saw this. But she essentially drove that principle home, saying, if you had a bad mom who did this, you know what a good mom should do.
Right.
Opposite. Like, take the negative, flip it. Negative, flip it. And it's a pretty honest reflection of a leader. Someone who's going to take charge and not make excuses. That's something that you and I've actually talked a lot about is like, what is it that like one child can come from the same home as another sibling and they both can be so off course and just go on different paths. And I believe ownership. I believe it's responsibility and leadership. They take ownership, whereas you and I have explored this, where the other tends to be a victim. A victim mentality is an attack from the enemy, man.
And a victim mentality will always keep you down. It taints your lens of how you view life. So it makes it so rotten.
And it's not saying what you went through isn't real. That's what people don't know. Like,
no, there are real victims,
very real.
And then there is victim mentality.
They're different.
They're very different things. Of course, there are real victims. But when you're a victim mentality, it's now all of a sudden you're viewing everything through the lens of people are out to get me. And you might get, like, let's say I walk by you in a crowded hallway because I happen to not see you. But your victim mentality could go,
David ignored me.
He just ignored me. Why does he have a problem with me?
It's
What's he going? And you start judging. You're going to mess yourself up so bad when you go down that route. Leon would always preach this. Don't ask the question why and then fill in that answer for somebody because now you're judging their intentions. If you do something to me, it's okay to me to actually come to you. Jeremy, you did this. Why did you do this? What's going on? Oh, dude, I didn't even, okay, all good. But if I don't go to him and I just start asking in my head, why would he do that to me? And I start feeling, because he doesn't like me, or maybe he's mad about this, or blah, blah. And I start feeling these things. I am now projecting onto you your intentions. And the Bible tells us you don't judge the heart. You can judge the actions.
But even the actions can be wrongly judged sometimes. So 100%. It's important just to confront in love, to speak truth in love. And then this is something that was this helped our marriage, man, when we did this. when you did that, it made me feel like this, not you
Right.
made me feel this.
Right.
Yeah.
They're very different.
Totally.
I chose to feel this way because I interpreted what you did as this.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
100%.
And that's the part that's.
And I think that's why I find, as pastors, we talk to a lot of people, and people generally fall into that victim mentality.
Yeah.
They are asking themselves the question and judging, why did that person do that?
Right.
Totally.
Why did they do this? And they don't actually confront or talk, but they come to their own conclusions,
Yep.
and it clouds them, and it builds resentment and anger and judgment, and it messes up your lens in which you view life even more.
And you know what I find? When those problems are rising up, where there's lots of offense, lots of things that have happened, and people are very, very easily hurt, and in that kind of like injury phase, is you're not busy doing enough, and you're not like. What I mean by that is when I am actively loving, caring, ministering, praying, I don't even have time to think of me. And that's the best way we're designed to be. We're designed to be that way.
Right.
Like, think about when you're doing a game, a football game, or a hockey game, or something like this. And you're so focused on getting that ball across the line, that's all you really care about. Get the ball across the line. If someone stopped you and went, hey, on that 3 plays ago at the 15-yard line, I'm really sorry that we bumped shoulders. I didn't mean to hurt you there. You go, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were on the line with me. Like you have no awareness of it whatsoever because you're so focused on the goal to get it across the line. And that's how we're supposed to live life. As fathers, I don't want to be focused on me. I want my basic needs met and be so purpose-driven and so leadership-focused that you're just going, and that's the way to be get it off of you. Like, stop thinking of you. The people that I know that are the most unhappy at church are the people who are obsessed with themselves.
Yeah.
We're completely out of time. I had no idea we
got
had
10
10 seconds left. I can feel it on you
Let
guys.
us know what you guys are thinking on the show. Comment, like it. What else we got to say?
That's all. See you same time tomorrow. God bless you guys.
Thrive is only made possible by the generous donations of people like you. 100% of your donation goes towards ministry efforts. Call today and make a significant impact in the lives of Canadians. Through your financial investment, you are a missionary to the world. Phone lines will remain open for a limited time. Connect with us now by calling 1-800-815-6513 or visit miraclechannel.ca/thrive to leave your comments, prayer requests, and praise reports. Together, let's thrive.